So today I wanted to make a new mandala, but obviously I had no idea what to draw. So I went to Pinterest and started looking for some mandala ideas. And I found these two designs that I really liked. I couldn't decide which one to make, so I thought why not both? Actually, I had already tried one of these designs before, and this is how mine turned out. And this time I decided to try the other one. So I started by making the basic circles with a compass, because honestly, getting those circles right is probably the most important part of a mandala. Then I slowly started adding the details, one section at a time. After that came the petals, the little patterns, and all the extra details that make the mandala look more complete. And now the real work begins. Because apparently, making a mandala is just drawing the same pattern again and again until you start questioning your life choices. At first, everything looked pretty simple, but as I kept adding more details, the whole thing started getting busier and busier. And the best part is that every time I finish one section, I think, okay, this must be the last one. And then I look at the drawing and realize, no, there are still like 500 more tiny details left. I kept adding the petals, small patterns, and all the little details in between. Sometimes I would stop for a few seconds just to check whether both the sides were looking somewhat similar. Obviously, we are aiming for symmetry here, even though the drawing and I have completely different plans. So I just kept adding more details and slowly worked my way around the whole design. But then I reached the final petals on the left side, and that's when I realized my mandala was literally going out of the book. So I had to adjust the last few petals and somehow make everything fit into the space I had left. After all that, the drawing was finally complete. Now it was finally time to color the mandala. So I started from the center and slowly worked my way towards the outside. I just followed the reference and started filling in the different sections. And if you remember the mandala I showed at the beginning of the video, in that mandala, the section between the lotuses was black. But in today's mandala, that section is in yellow color. And honestly, the yellow was much easier to work with compared to the black. When I was working on the black section in my previous mandala, I literally had to struggle to paint that black part on the sides of the green leaves, because the leaves were barely visible on the dark background. Everything was going pretty normal until I reached this yellow section. This was actually supposed to be a pattern where I colored only the little design in yellow, but for some reason I completely ignored the pattern and colored the entire circle yellow. And when I realized what I had done, I thought it's been completely ruined. But I said, okay, let's leave it for now and continue. So I moved on to the outer lotus section and started coloring the background blue. And here I made another little mistake. I completely forgot that this was supposed to be a border. So instead of coloring the proper section, I colored the entire thing blue. At this point, there was no going back. So I just decided to work with it and added a separate border. I also started adding the little dots, and after that I took a marker and carefully drew the pattern that I had completely ignored earlier. And honestly, this was the moment when I realized, okay, I had not completely ruined the drawing and fixed the yellow mistake. Finally, I added the last finishing touches by outlining the inner lotus section. And finally, the mandala was ready. Thanks for watching and do subscribe to our channel.